Our Bible word is Psalm 145, verses 2 to 3. Every day I will bless you, and I will praise your name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. So this is a psalm of praise. It's praising God for his universal kingship. God is ruler, he's king over everything. And Psalm 145 is also an example of what is called an alphabetic acrostic. Now, acrostic poems is where a line or a verse or a stanza, whatever, begins with a particular letter of the alphabet. And to give you an example, I've composed this psalm, if we may call it that, to give you an example. And you'll see that each line follows the letters of the alphabet. It says, Almighty are you, O Lord, blessed be your name. Come rule as our King. Dominion belongs to you. Eternal be your reign. So I'm sure there are poets among us who will do a much better job, but it's to give you just an example of what an acrostic psalm or an alphabetic acrostic is. And if you look at the psalms, there are various of these acrostic psalms. If you go to Psalm 25, 34, 37, 111, 112. Also, go to Psalm 119 as a very clear example of an alphabetic acrostic. There are also passages in Proverbs and in Lamentations where the similar principle is found. And why was it done this way? Well, maybe it's just a poetic technique. It's maybe a way to say we cover everything from A to Z, so to speak. Or it could have been used as an aid in memory. And so follow the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, all the way down, because the Hebrew alphabet has got 22 letters. In our Psalm 145, there's one letter missing, however. It's the Nun, and that verse is missing between verses 13 and 14. Anyway, there are two major themes here. It's praise of God's kingship, and that is verses 1 to 3, and also in verses 10 to 13. And then also praise of God's faithfulness that we find in verses 4 to 9, and also verses 14 to 21. And this praise is expressed in different ways. God is praised because he's great, because he's mighty, because his works are wondrous and majestic. God is praised for his goodness, for his righteousness. The Lord is gracious. He's full of compassion. He is merciful. So those words appear quite frequently in the psalm, that this is the reason why God is praised. So if you look at the first three verses, this is again praise of God's kingship. God is king, like it says in verse 1, I will extol you, my God, O King. And here are various synonyms used for praise. I will extol you, my God. And in our Bible word, every day I will bless you, and I will praise your name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. So various synonyms used for praise are extol, bless, praise. But also it draws greatness of God is contrasted to the limitation of us human beings. We cannot fully comprehend God's will or his ways, God's nature. He is unsearchable. And then the next section, it talks about God's faithfulness and also how this instruction is given from the older generation to the younger generation in terms of God's mighty acts of the past. One generation shall praise your works to another and shall declare your mighty acts. So of course, this refers to God's acts of redemption from the past, be it the Exodus, also the return of exile, whatever it may be. The older will tell the younger generation, remember God, his mighty acts, he's faithful, how he's delivered his people. All part of this idea to praise God for what He's done for us in the past. Now, verses 10 to 13 is a return to this praise of God's kingship. And also that God's kingship lasts forever. He has an eternal dominion. If we go to verse 11, for example, they shall speak of the glory of your kingdom. In other words, that's where God rules as king. Talk of your power. If you go to verse 13, your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. In other words, you will reign as king forever, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. So here's this praise for God's kingship again. His dominion lasts eternally. And then in the last verses, that's again praise of God's faithfulness from verses 14 to 21. And yeah, it's about God's being faithful in He restores people, He provides for people's needs. For example, if we go to verse 17, the Lord is righteous in all His ways. If we go to verse 18, the Lord is near to all who call upon Him, to all who call upon Him in truth. Important here, God is faithful to His people, especially those who call upon Him in truth, those who serve Him the way that God must be served, with truth. There's other ways that God looks after the needs of people. He will fulfill the desire of those who fear Him. He will also hear their cry and save them. The Lord preserves all who love Him, but all the wicked He will destroy. So it's, yes, God is faithful to His people, especially those who call upon Him in truth. He will preserve them. He will give them what is necessary. God is faithful to His creation. And also God will vindicate the righteous and punish the wicked. So very importantly, this is a hymn of praise. God is king. He will rule forever. He's gracious. He's merciful. He's almighty. All these words that are used, God is remembered for His acts of the past He's done. He's close to His people. He will preserve them. He will nourish them. He will give them what they need. So this is a psalm of praise to God as King.